No, this is not last night. If you're tuning in and thinking, wow, this is the same type of show that we saw last night. No, it's the second night of Big Al and me here on the Phightins Phinal, and I could not be happier. I'm Matty B, and with me is Big Al once again. And Al, 9-1, Phillies with the win tonight. Magic numbers down to 9. And Aaron Nola, I guess we can lead in with that story. Last time I checked, it was about 58 degrees outside. It's late September, and Aaron Nola got some run support, and he pitched a gem.
Yeah, I mean, this is the most unlikely Aaron Nola night that most people were expecting. They probably expected this game to be ugly. You listen to anybody, any radio station, any podcast, they expected tonight to be just a nail biter the whole way through. But it was one of those ones you could sit back, relax, and just felt comfortable the entire way. Pitching staff all around, you got great stuff from not just him, but Nelson gave you 2 innings, let up 1 run, but that's fine when you have 9 runs. And then Brogdon shut it down. So you can't ask for much more than that in late September when you're in a playoff push.
No, absolutely not. And when you're talking to Aaron Nola and his very publicized September struggles, you look at tonight's line on him, 6 innings. Maybe we talked about this before going on the air. Maybe another inning or two would have been better, but you know what? I'll take it.
If you go for perfection, yeah, well, like a lower pitch count, a couple inning, another inning. But you know what? For the most part, Nick Nelson pitched 2 innings. Brogdon, so you didn't have to use You didn't have to use Sir Anthony. You didn't have to use any of your bigger guys you're going to be using down the line. So they got a day off. So in my eyes, it's a win, 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 win.
And the way the game worked out for the Phillies, there's no need to pitch Aaron Nola anymore. You save his arm. That was his 10th win tonight. 6 strong, 4 hits, no runs, 3 walks, and 8 strikeouts for Aaron Nola. And Phillies now have won an unprecedented 3 in a row. The worst they can do in this series is split. The Brewers did win tonight, but the Phillies with their win now move to a magic number of 9, and it's getting a little bit closer. And watching the action down at the bank tonight, everyone's wearing their April jackets and their fall baseball apparel. It's definitely looking like fall baseball and playoff baseball. Is it feeling like that to you, Big Al?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, we're down to single digits to get into the playoffs. You asked me, I think last night you asked me, what makes you happy? Like, would be like the worst case scenario here. I said the worst case scenario would be getting swept again by the Braves, but I said if we can take 3 for 3 on this homestand, which now at the worst case scenario, that's what we'll have. Yep. So at the very least, we'll go, out of these 6 games, we'll be 3-3. So, but I honestly feel they'll get another one out of this. Maybe not tomorrow, but maybe Sunday, because like I said, they have a getaway game, and they got to go play the Mets in New York, I believe. So, yep. That might be looking ahead come Sunday. So, the Phillies look confident. I mean, you're getting more production up and down the lineup. It wasn't all the young guys at the bottom of the lineup. Still some struggles from guys like Harper.
Yeah.
If you watch him, like he's pushing it. He's trying to hit for power, but I don't know if his power's there with his injury. So, and these cold nights, they're not going to fly out. Last night was a very windy night, and tonight wasn't much better. But I think it was Crux said like he had to hit over the wind for Hoskins' home run to count, and damn if he didn't, he almost hit a hell of a moonshot. So it was good to see him play well, both offensively and defensively.
Yeah, and to take a line from John Kruk as well tonight, in reference to Bryce Harper. Bryce is chasing a lot. I mean, he's up there, uber aggressive. He's chasing stuff high, and I get it. You press, you start to think that you're in your own head, but maybe tonight with the sack fly, it's a step in the right direction. And that's all we can hope. And Star Wars 99 says, "What a night it was indeed." Walter chimes in with Reese had himself a night. Yeah, Alan, we talked about this kind of pre-game or pre-show. When we look at some of the top 2 offensive contributors tonight for the Phillies, Rhys Hoskins, who was 3 for 4 with a run, 4 RBIs, a homer, and a walk. And then you kind of add in the performance tonight of Alec Boehm, who was 3 for 4 as well, with 2 runs and an RBI and a walk. What breaks the tie between the two of them for your player of the game? I know we mentioned it, and I kind of agree with you.
It's the added additional defensive play of the game came from Reese as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he fell to the ground, he flashed that leather straight up, kept that ball from going over his head in the outfield, made an excellent play, and just helped help Nola continue to be Nola, because that could have been a play that gave Braves a little spark and made that game completely different. So, he didn't just do it at the plate. He was one hit away from the cycle, one triple away from the cycle. And on top of that, he had a hell of a defensive game. So, which we need from him because we know his defensive struggles are real.
Yeah, they are very real. And before we get into the line, Al, I do want to ask one question that's been kind of bugging me over the last two nights on a baseball side of things during this game. There's been a lot of chirping about the umpiring. Last night we saw Kevin Long get tossed for arguing balls and strikes, Phillies hitting coach. Tonight was a little bit the same thing. Not so much, but the strike zone seemed to be a little inconsistent on both nights. The two different umpires. How are you? Where do you come out on this? I don't think we've ever really talked about your pro robo ump, anti robo ump, or your ump stance. And of course, as we move into the playoffs, all that stuff becomes that much more magnified. Do you think so far through this series it's been a badly called umpiring performance?
I think last night was worse. Tonight there's definitely some stuff that like Gene Segura started walking. He thought he was walked because he thought one ball that should have been called a ball was called a strike. There was a couple times I'm sitting there watching the game going, I mean, not even close. Like, it's just not even close. Like I said, it was definitely worse last night. But yeah, I mean, are these guys getting fatigued just like just like the players? I don't know. I don't know if I can sit here and tell you if um pro or not pro robo ump. I mean, from what I understand, the way it would work is you would still have an umpire behind the plate if they
Yeah,
were doing this. He would still be calling balls and strikes, and I think every player gets one
like a challenge.
gets one challenge on a ball or strike. So
Yeah,
I mean, I would have to see it. I would have to see how it works out. You know what I mean? Before I can really give you my real answer. But I mean, when it comes to important games like this, and you know, a difference between a walk and a run. But I mean, we've been hurt by bad calls. We've been helped by bad calls. So
part of the game.
I
It
mean,
is part of the game.
it is definitely part of the game. And if you remember earlier in the year, were they playing I forget who they were playing. There was that one game where Angel Hernandez was just hard. I know, shocked. One game really
It was
narrowed down
against
now.
the Brewers, and it was on my
Yeah,
birthday, April 24th.
that's right. It was your birthday. Okay.
Yeah.
And he was just god awful. And at the end, um, you see, Schwarber he throws like he didn't get freaked out, but he goes, you're here, up here, down here, and you're wrong." Like he was very animated. He didn't yell and scream or kick dirt in his feet. He just said, "You're doing a shit job."
And he pointed at both dugouts, saying, "You're doing it to both of
Yeah,
us."
and that's where you can both argue.
Yeah.
Okay, it's bad, but if it's when it's one sided, that's where the robo ump I would be, because it sometimes comes out that way. Like you can tell, a ref or an ump does not like a team or like a city or like being there, doesn't want to be there, and it just when it's one sided, and they need to be held to a standard. I know they're not getting paid millions and millions of dollars, but
Ooh, they're making good money.
they're making good money to call a baseball game. So, and this is where, think about it. What other sport out there where you can play downs in football where the refs aren't involved. You can play shifts in hockey where the refs aren't involved.
Yeah.
But every call, every pitch, the the umpires are involved. So yeah, I mean, I can see there may be a need one day. Is it? Do you do it that way, or do you like say, fine, we're okay with it? And does the robo ump kind of keep a percentage where it should have been called a strike, they called it a ball, or vice versa, and it starts like that's what they really should do. I know they do it, like they get talked to, but like that's what I would like. They really should start really keeping outward stats. As this guy's like, he's like 87%. This guy's 97%. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like That's really what I think would be make it interesting. It just I would like to see how it plays out. Like we should play, they should play exhibition games. I think in the spring like that. Give them a chance. Give players a chance. I mean, they make mistakes too in the spring, just like the players do.
Yeah.
But I don't. I know I kind of went along on this, but I really don't know. I don't have an exact answer how I feel about it just yet.
So as far as the, I know baseball does have a grading system, and I know every crew gets graded nightly, and that's how they come up with the World Series crew is the best umpires, not
Hmm.
necessarily crew, but best umpires are
Hmm.
allegedly selected to do the World Series. But you're right, and I know there's training that they go throughout the year. But there's one point though about this that I want to make, and that's to all you people out there listening when it comes to umpiring officials, referees, the stripes side of the house. Now, I'm a man in blue. I'm an umpire, and I'm also a hockey referee. So I ride both sides of that fence. Um, we all start our typically we all start in youth sports. It's how we start kind of learning our trades as umpires and refs. But right now in this country, and I was talking to some high school kids today, I didn't realize that they're starting to play high school games on Thursdays and Saturday afternoons. And I'm like, what's going on? What happened to Friday Night Lights? And they're like, well, there's a shortage of referees. There's not enough refs to go around the city for all games to be played. So they got to spread games out in order to kind of, catch everything. So, I got that. It's a tough job. It's the only job where everybody hates you on the field. You don't have any friends on the field, and all that. But you said it. Egregiousness is one thing, but part of the game is definitely the other thing. And I don't know, seeing C3PO behind the plate calling balls and strikes obviously is not what RoboUmp is, but it may add to the game, and it may fix some of that stuff. So I don't know. You're right. I'm kind of out on that as well.
Well, it keeps these just like you see in other games becoming stars of the show.
Yeah,
Keeps them in
exactly,
check,
exactly.
and
They don't want they don't want
the,
that.
the only thing I wouldn't like about it if the challenges start slowing the game down. Because like
Yeah.
if an ump's having a bad night, then you have a challenge almost at every like in an inning, every at bat, or a couple innings, every player up at the plate challenges a call or two.
Hmm.
And it's how's that work? Like, do you challenge and you win? Do you get to keep it, just kind of like they do now?
I think it is. I think it's the same type of system. I don't think it's endless challenges until you lose. I think it's maybe it's like one.
Pretty
It
much, you
might
get
be
two.
endless like
You
one.
get two as long as you don't get the other one wrong.
Yeah, something like that. I'm sure it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and all that. But it also might be eye opening to some players that maybe the umps weren't that bad after all, because there's some calls that I've seen. I've seen dead on, like, almost fist fights between players and umps, and guess what? That was a strike. It was a strike. Every angle was a strike, and their argument. So sometimes you do if damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I
Are
don't
they
know.
going to start challenging? When an ump calls a person out for not checking their swing? I
Yeah.
mean, there's another thing that can be. It's hard to say. Like, where's the line? Like, is it when you come straight, like when the bat's pretty much at a right angle with your wrist, or is it like because you've seen guys like bring the ball. I know you can't really see me on here, but like kind of cock back towards you. They kind of keep their wrist snap back versus keeping it straight out like they would on a normal swing. So like that's once again and like here's again. Is it how many times you see the strike zone and the white ball like on the image on the screen is like this butt up against the strike zone. Like I know, like
What's the
out here
percentage?
is like
Yeah.
okay, yeah, challenge that. That's pretty straightforward. Or
What's the
something
percentage
down
in
low.
the zone?
Yeah,
What are we
like
talking about?
yeah, like exactly. I'm saying like it's like where percentage off do they get before they finally say okay, there's the limit.
Yeah. Now, there's, I guess, a lot tweaking out, and a lot to look forward to, I guess, when it comes to that. If you're into that type of thing, let's transition back to the line for the Braves tonight. 1 run on 6 hits. Phillies 9 runs, 10 hits. How it all went down. The Phillies got things going early in the bottom of the second. Bryson Stott would get the scoring going with the sac fly to right field, knocking in Alec Bohm. Phillies would go up 1-0, but they were not done. Matt Verling would then knock in Brandon Marsh, making it 2-0. Gene Segura advanced to third on that play. Reese Hoskins then would then double in Gene Segura and Matt Verling. Before you got settled into your seats, it was 4-0 Phillies, and that would remain 4-0 until the bottom of the fourth, when Reese would get things going with his 2-run shot into the night to make it 6-0. It scored Kyle Schwarber as well. But they were not done in the fourth. Alec Bowman then would follow that with a triple to deep right center, scoring a JT to make it 7-0. Brandon Marsh would knock in Alec Bohm 8-0. Phillies, and then in the fifth inning, we mentioned this already. Bryson Stott with the sac fly to make it 9-0. Robbie Grossman would get the Braves on the board in the seventh with a run and a sac fly. 9-1 is your final on the offensive individual side for the Phillies. Another very struggle night for Kyle Schwarber. He was 0 for 4 with a run. He did have a walk, but he struck out 3 more times. We talked about this last night, Alan. I'm not going to let it go because I don't see it getting any better. You mentioned not upsetting the apple cart or making too many drastic changes, but at what point, if any, do we say, listen, maybe we just sit him down for a couple games? Maybe, I don't know, get his head
doing
cleared.
it here. It's like I said last night. You're just not doing it against the Braves. Maybe against Chicago, maybe definitely against the Nationals in Washington. You're not doing it against the Braves. If it's the Braves, the Mets, the Dodgers, any team that's in contention, Padres, Cardinals, you're not doing that. You want to sit him. You want to sit him in Chicago, let him take a night off in Wrigley. Maybe that's where he gets his groove back. He goes back to Chicago, has a little home, resurgence back there. Maybe he goes, and they go to Washington and they let some, especially if they, let's play devil's advocate for a second. Say they win one of the next 2 games, and they take 3 or 4 from the Braves. And then in Chicago they take 2 or 3 from them. I mean, that's when you can really start letting some young guys like a Guthrie who's that, Donnie Sands and things like that get like
He's our third catcher.
yeah, like Amuno's, those kind of guys. Let them play a couple games and give guys rests and time to kind of gather themselves. Even Harper. Like, honestly, if it wasn't the Braves, I think Harper needs to sit more than he does.
So you going into the potential playoff series between the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Is there genuine fear right now at the top of this lineup? Are we as Phillies fans, should we be kind of concerned about the offensive production on the top of this lineup?
I mean,
not lineup, but top.
Yeah, it's concerning because it's not happening, But it's also, if they're gonna slump now, I'd rather be now than 2 weeks from now, just like, or whatever from now. Yeah, Walter, that's what I'm saying. I would love to see Bryce just take a day. Like, I don't know if it hurts when he makes connection because of the vibrations of the bat, and he's just not letting on, and he's still trying to be power hitter. Just dink and dunk him, man. Singles, bloops, just do that, and then the power will come. He has it. It's not like he had this one streak in his life like Don Brown, where he had like one 6-week streak of great offensive power and then never to be seen again. We know it's in there, Bryce. You just need to stop trying to force the bitch out. Like, let it ease it out. Like, let it come. And I think he's pressing because as we get to the playoffs, closer towards the possibility of a playoff berth, he feels like he needs to be the guy, and he doesn't want to let his team down. And I think that's where it's becoming more of a mental problem versus, an actual baseball problem. And that's, maybe they're just trying to get through this weekend, and then they can start letting guys like him take a pause, take a breath. But at the same time, a team like the Nationals and the Cubs could get a guy like can help Stella get her groove back a little bit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it could. Kyle Schwarber currently has a 212 batting average. It's the worst in the Phillies starting lineup by far. I mean, there's nobody really.
He has more home runs than anybody else in the National. It's hilarious.
I'm
just
so
saying it's hilarious to know that.
Okay, so I'm not going to take away a 40 now, right? 40 home runs, 85 RBIs. I got that.
And his OPS isn't terrible either.
No, but Noah's terrible, man. It's terrible as him walking up and just. I mean, I've never seen somebody make the walk back and forth in the dugout so many times this year than I have Kyle Schwarber. And that same dumb look on his face when he's stepping in, and when he's in the dugout, taking his bat and gloves back off, like, what was that? I'm just
listen. We forget a couple things. Number one, we've gone through this. JT, we had the same problem with, and it is what it is. We still don't have Nick back. I keep forgetting that he's on the team sometimes because he's been gone, and I think they're just letting him rest. Like, there's no reason to rush this guy back.
I agree.
I mean, I think I don't think Nick, maybe unless they're just letting him get a couple swings in before the playoffs. But if they make the playoffs, I think they just like let him ride just let him ride without playing.
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to get everything back in and getting those pieces aligned because everything between injuries and stuff has gotten out of line. That the recipe was good in July and in early August, mid August, and then injuries started to occur. Bryce came back in. I mean, we forget we don't have that. I said that the one other good thing was him not clogging up the DH, giving guys like Schwarber a night off of playing defense, or Nick when he was struggling. So I mean, they're just. I'm not super worried about it. This is how I kind of likened it. It's like when you have your first kid. You know, your wife's pregnant, your girl's pregnant. You're like, I'm gonna be a dad. Pretty crazy, huh? But until that baby's out of the belly and you're sitting there holding it and up late night feeding, it's a real thing. And I think when this becomes a real thing and the playoffs birth is a thing, I think you're gonna see a very you're gonna see a flip switch, a switch flip a little bit, and just here we go.
I mean,
Baseball, baby.
Schwarber has the pedigree. He's been there. He's been to that stage. He's won a World Series. That's definitely something that is probably not
Well,
that
he's
far.
the only one. Isn't he like the only one of the starters who have been to
Yeah.
the play, to a World Series, and one of the few that's been to the playoffs?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I don't think there's anybody that's been to the playoffs in this starting lineup right now, with the exception of I don't know. Segura might have snuck in the one with the Mariners, but
Was
I think
Bryce
that's
never?
it.
Is that kind of hard
Bryce
to
was
believe?
never in the playoffs with the. Wait, yes, he was. Yes, he
I was
was.
gonna say, like, I feel like he was. I know
Yeah.
they won the year after he left, which is
Yeah.
still got to stick in his craw a little bit.
12,
But
13, 14, and 15. He was in the
yeah,
playoffs.
I mean, he's been in the playoffs, but it's been a long damn time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was. Anyway, the rest of the lineup, as I mentioned, Bryce Harper was 0 for 2 with an RBI, and he did have a walk. JT 1 for 4 with a run. Alec had a night 3 for 4, 2 runs, as I mentioned, and an RBI. Brandon March 2 for 3, 1 run, and an RBI. Then he was taken out of the game late with the potential precautionary injury situation late in the game. More to follow on that. I don't have anything more on that, what that could be. Gene Segura was 0 for 3 with a run and a walk. Bryson Stott was 0 for 2 with a walk and a run. And Matt Verling 1 for 3. On the pitching side, there's nothing really to talk about on the Braves. We mentioned the one run that was scored. On the pitching side, mentioned it already. Nola now goes 10 and 12 on the season. He did 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs, 3 walks, and 8 strikeouts. Nick Nelson, 2 strong innings, 2 hits, 1 run. It was earned, and he had 2 strikeouts. And Connor Brogdon came down and pitched a lights out 9th inning with 2 strikeouts. On the Brave side, Jake Ordonez is now 1 and 3. He lasted 4 innings, gave up 10 hits, 8 runs. They were all earned. 6 strikeouts, 3 walks. Matuzik, Stevens, and Arcia, the infielder, finished up the pitching for the Braves. And there you have 9-1 Phillies and win number 83 on the season. We have now got to game 150 out. And here's also a stat that's making me sad a little bit. Barring us getting into the second round of the playoffs, we will not see the red pinstripes until next season. Al, we got to see that. That kind of hit me like a thunderbolt today. We got a day game tomorrow and a day game on Sunday. Al, that might be it for the red pinstripes.
Let's hope not. I mean, let's hope that
Yep.
we can go in there and make some noise with our bats and play solid defensive baseball in the playoffs, and not make whoever plays us first round feel like they're just preliminarily just going through the motions.
Yeah.
Put up a fight. I really think this team. We've said it during the year, especially when they were surging. This team does have a bit of an it factor. Not like they could win it all it factor, but like when they are all on firing on all cylinders, they look like a very well-oiled team who's lighthearted and having fun. I mean, we said that up. I always go back to 2017 Eagles. Oh, look, they're hanging out together. They're doing things together. The 93 Phillies are just guys who are buddy hanging out. 08, these guys look like, we talked about them being at the Eagles game, and because they had, here's my thing is, if they didn't have the type of weekend they had in Atlanta, if they say won the series or whatever, would you care that they were at the Eagles game?
If they would have won the series in Atlanta, no. But
Yeah.
I took exception to them Harper being there after the weekend he had. Yes.
But my point is like, these guys are stressed out. So what do you want them to do? Go stress out more, sit at home and like pound their head against the wall? Let them go out and forget about Phillies baseball for a night. That's okay. Like that's what you have to do. Sometimes you got to walk away and come back in, clear the air. And that's my point. Like
Yeah,
they're
I can't
human.
do that. Why can they?
Yes, you can. You can do that. That's my point. If you're having a bad day, you can call your boys up. Yo, Al, let's go hang out. I need to go grab a beer. We need to go do this. We need to go do that. I'm gonna go. Let's go play some pickup basketball at the. Go to the gym and do something. Like just go do something that's not related to the problem that they're having. And if I mean, some guys go and they press so hard and they stay till 4 o'clock in the morning and they're hitting and they're swinging and they're doing defensive drills and all that stuff. Like that's great, but you also could overdo it. Just like somebody could overstudy for a test,
Yeah.
and you burn yourself out. My sister was taking her. She just, God bless her, just got her nursing degree, and I was helping her study and go through all that stuff. And I said, Dane, give me the books. Go sit down. Let's go get something to eat. Let's go chill out and watch some TV for an hour. I said, you need to cool down. So that's why I'm totally okay with it. I think people get too upset because you're upset because it was not the outcome we wanted. And that's fine. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with having that feeling. But my point is when you're struggling, it's good to see them go out and just kind of be buddy buddy and hang out and just not be a Philly for the night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Let's see.
And here's my thing: is like, just let's play devil's advocate. I believe Ellis said it here. He goes, "Let's go get game 3, right? Let's
Yes.
play devil's advocate for a moment. Say they win tomorrow, okay? Let's say they sweep. Let's say like just God, we'd be how different would this Monday be compared to last Monday? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you
No, I
take
agree.
4
But
games from the Braves,
that's the beautiful thing about baseball. You try. You keep saying it throughout the season. We hear it a lot. We say it a lot back in April and May. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And we constantly, fall on well, it's early in the season. Don't worry about it. They'll be fine and they'll rebound and they'll do this and do that. We get to that point in June or so, then we kind of throw that out the door and we start really over rationalizing and really blowing things out of proportion because we're like, oh no, there's only 94 games left. We better figure this out soon. I got you. But that's the beautiful thing, though. We can have a weekend like we did last weekend. Come back and then sweep the Braves.
Possible no playoffs. Like at one point,
right.
we're all like, we might not even make the playoffs.
Yeah. No, I never abandoned the playoffs, but I wasn't really feeling our chances. But you're right. We sweep the Braves. Magic numbers say maybe 5, 6 at this point. Yeah, we're feeling a hell of a lot better on the way to Chicago, on our way to Washington.
If we sweep the Braves, and we are at say 6, right? You could lose 2 or 3 to Chicago and go smack the Nats around and be in.
That's it. Yeah, and then Garrett Stubbs can start Game 1 of the Astro series for the Phillies on the mound. Yeah, it wouldn't matter.
And Star Wars 99's got it here. Let's go Rockies. I mean,
on that segue, let's take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard. As right now, if we're talking standings, the Phillies are percentage points, or I should say the tiebreaker, ahead of the San Diego Padres, back in that second wild card spot in the National League, and currently out there in Colorado. They are heading to extras, 3-3 in the top of the 10th inning. The Rockies and the Padres, as we kind of keep an eye on that game. Obviously, back now into that second wild card spot by percentage points, and because we got to keep distance, because out there in Cincinnati, the Brewers handled their business tonight over the Reds 5-3. So no damage was done in that front, and we could potentially be moving up by about a half a game over the Padres tonight. So it could be a good night for us, Al.
Could be.
Could be
very good. I mean, that's the thing. Is like, just be happy, and like that's my thing. I'm not gonna get up. Listen, man. If this team had no fight in them, if this team looked like they were like the whole like end of August and September, they couldn't win a game if they paid the umps. I get getting upset about anything, being out of the Eagles game, just looking in their faces make you want to scream. I see too much fight in there, and I mean, you keep seeing those stats. I saw a stat last night. At this point in the season, the 08 and the 1980 Phillies all had this, and the 2022 Phillies all had the same record.
Yeah.
So we were pulling our hair out in 08. God knows where we were going then.
Yeah, no, and I remember that run down the stretch too. It was very reminiscent of this. They surged right there at the end at the right time, won the division, and obviously the rest is history. But
And the biggest difference here is this division's very strong. I mean, we're third in our division, and we're
yeah,
all
the NL
top
East is going to
three.
put 3 teams in the playoffs.
That's crazy if you think about it. That's just nuts.
Yeah,
I know there's an extra playoff position now, but that's still pretty crazy because we still could have the second one. So even if they didn't have the extra playoff position, so say right now
so
we were just keeping our head above water to stay in playoff contention. That means three out of that's
yeah,
ridiculous. That's pretty crazy.
it is ridiculous. And Walter asked a question that says, matchup better against Braves in playoffs than the Mets. Let's play Mets or LA second. Walter, I disagree. I want the Mets in the first round, and I want them bad. I mean, I really want the Mets in the first round. There is some massive payback that's due there, both for the off the field insults that we received at the hands of the Mets, and of course the on the field insults that we got all season. Al, I don't know about how you stack up on this. Do you want to play strategics and try to, the best team or the best opportunity to move forward, or you just want to get the Mets right away? I got it. A short series might not be the best thing because you would love to play the Mets at least 2 games here, but I want the Mets bad. I really do.
Listen, if the Nationals and Braves recent World Series wins taught you anything, it just means about getting hot at the right time. Not to be cliche, but it is what it is. It is a clean slate. Everybody is 0-0-0 across the board come October 6th, whatever it is. Whoever's left to play in the playoffs. So I want to play whoever. And do you want? I mean, you can listen. You can look at anything and be like, "Well, the Mets had our number all year long. The last thing you want to do is see the Mets. If we can have somebody else take the Mets out, that'd be huge for us." Could be. Like everybody say, "Well, if the Tampa Bay Rays didn't upset the Yankees come 2008, the Phillies would have never won." I don't know that. We don't know that. You can't say that. So my point is, what is it to say? Like the Braves or the Mets go up against us, we have nothing to lose. Nobody would expect us to win that series after they've manhandled us. The only people who would have stress on their backs would be anybody wearing a Mets uniform because they have to. They have to. Because if
Yeah.
they lose, they don't just lose. They lost to the team that they slapped around all season long.
Yep, and that's poetic justice enough for me. I agree with you, Al. So with that being said, I want the Mets. And Star Wars 99 just indicated we are now officially going to finish this season at least 1 game over 500. Tonight was the
Mm-hmm.
83rd victory of the year. So Al, from the first time since 2011, the Philadelphia Phillies will finish the season over 500. How do you feel? Can you gather yourself for a second and tell the people out there what's going through your mind?
It's. I just want to say this, especially the younger guys. You know what I mean? When the 08, 07 to 11 run was, I'm in my mid to late 20s. Okay, I'm living it up. I'm young. I don't have a ton of kids yet. I have some spending money. The world is my oyster type situation, and it's huge. This city celebrates its wins. It celebrates its heroes, and there's just nothing like it. And I said this. I had this argument with Freddie, not argument, but this conversation with Freddie Burns, not this week, but a week ago Wednesday, um, about you know not just for now, but for the future. If we get in the playoffs and just make a decent run, maybe survive the first round and put up a hell of a fight the second round, I think next year you start to see more asses in seats. You see a full stadium again. You see sellout crowds that aren't half Mets. You know what I mean? You see when this team is hot and this team. I mean, it is. Listen, it's a football town. NFL rules everywhere. There's not many. I can't think of one place where well, the Yankees are more. Maybe in New York because the Yankees are a bigger deal than the Giants or the Jets because they've sucked for so long. And the Yankees have a storied history, but not often does the NFL not rule a city. So my point is having a good run with the Eagles, a great run with the Phillies. I mean, that was happening in '08, happening in '07. There was this wonderment that we could win possibly and be World Series champions. Now, did it work? It happened in '08, and then we just kept tripping at the finish line, building super teams. But this team can consistently be a playoff contender. And like, listen, we know there's still holes in this team. We knew there was holes coming into the season. A lot of it at the time in the beginning was the bullpen. We were doing bargain basement shopping for the bullpen
Yeah.
just because we
That's
want
really
high top shelf for bats.
Yep.
They're going to make moves. You're going to bring better defenders in. You think they're not going to bring? Like, that's what I'm saying. Turner's going to be here. They're going to pay for a guy like him. They're going to get guys in here, and it's going to change. This team is only going to get better. My point is, I really hope so, because this team needs to be This town needs to be a baseball town again.
It wants to be. It really does. But when you've had a team that's been in existence over 100 years and you only have 2 world championships, it's hard. It's hard to get behind that. As you mentioned, you go through very long droughts of just bad baseball. And there's been one constant. There's been a couple of constants that I've noticed at the bank this year, and one of them has been the consistent blue chairs, and that with nobody in them, and that's sad. You cite the 08 or 07 to 11 run. This time of the year, not a seat could be found in that stadium in late September baseball during those years, and it was all decked out in white rally towels, and everybody. It was a party. It was straight up a party. I remember those days, and you're right. This team wants to be a baseball team, but I guess they just feel as if they've been let down too many times by them.
Well, I mean, it's a whole new generation, like Freddie said. We're old men now. We're the old men. So anybody in their 30s and late 20s right now don't know good baseball.
No, not at all.
Because 10 years ago, then their late teens and early 20s, that was the last time this team was any good.
Yeah.
And it's been forgotten. Listen, out of sight, out of mind in this day and age. If you a lot of these kids, it's a long game, it's a long day to give up in the middle of a week, might I add, to sit down and watch 3 hours, 4 hours of baseball. It's a different breed. That's why they're always trying to fix baseball, make it more appealing. Because you know what? Even if you're a baseball fan, you're like, I don't have to watch it. I'm just gonna go on their Twitter feed and see all the highlights, see all the hits. I don't have to sit through it. But if it's interesting, you'll get people back in here. I don't care how big of a baseball town you are. If your team's that bad, it's hard to watch. Just like the Sixers were when they were on their bad runs for pretty much everything except for 2001 in the last 30 years.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I agree. You build it and you win, they will come. Things weren't hunky dory in 06 and those years prior to that. 07 was the start of that, and you're right. It ended up being something magical. And we do have a report in from Colorado. The Rockies have won it on walk-off fashion in the 10th inning. The Phillies are now a half game ahead of the San Diego Padres in that second wild card spot. And Walter brings up, if the Phillies do sweep this series, then they would go 10-9 over the Braves for the season series, which would be another tiebreaker for the Phillies, which could mean something as we move down the stretch here. So you're right. It's funny how much a difference we can make in baseball.
Checkbox. You keep hitting those check boxes. And I know it, like I said, I know it's so hard. The problem with it being this marathon, as you say, it's like power walking. We're not getting there as fast as a sprinter's going to get there. But this is what makes baseball fun. That the 10-game losing streak doesn't mean anything for you. I mean, think about this. Just let's put baseball aside for a second. Think of football. There are teams now, well, at least one, that are going to be 0-3 come after this Sunday, right? That means their likeliness of making the playoffs are like very, very small. 3 weeks. That's it.
Yep.
You could be out. So that's my point. Like they just this just makes this so much more fun. It's just you're looking at the away games now. Like you're not really looking at the away games in June. Like the Mets are losing, cool. Oh, the Braves are losing, cool. But now you're looking at every team.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. But you have that anomaly every now and again. You have like the 2016 Eagles that started 3-0 and then finished 3-10, and you have that anomaly every now and again. But you're right, play the odds there. I agree 100%. Let's take a look at tomorrow's game because the Phillies are not going to have much time to revel in this because they got to get back at it tomorrow. 4:05 start. As I mentioned, we've probably seen the last of the pinstripes for the regular season at least. Bailey, the fixer Falter, will get the nod for the Phillies tomorrow. 5-3, 3.68. He'll be opposed by Kyle Wright, who he attempts to capture his 20th victory of the year. Al, look at that, a potential 20-game winner in 2022. What has happened to them guys? He'll bring his 19-5, 3.18 ERA to bear against Bailey, the fixer falter. What is your kind of we talked about Bailey a little bit last night. You think he deserves a spot in the starting rotation for the playoffs? He's going to get an opportunity tomorrow to kind of solidify that. So what do you see there against Bailey going up against a potential 20-game winner in 2022?
Well, I always look at these pitching matchups and I'm like, well, they don't pitch against each other, so who cares?
Yeah.
How does he do if Ronald Acuna's playing? How does he do against Swanson? How does he do against Harris Jr.? That's who I worry about how he does. Even if the Phillies lose this game, but if he keeps it in front of them and keeps, just like Nola did tonight and Brogdon and Nelson, yeah, he's still in there as far as I'm concerned. I'm not worried. Like, in my eyes, a win or a loss doesn't make or break change my thoughts, because if the bats let us down, or that's a different story, and they just can't get a run. But if he can hold these guys to six, he can do 7 innings and hold them to two runs or less. Still got my bid.
Now, what is your thoughts though on Kyle Wright? 20-game winner? I mean, that's something that's a dinosaur. That's not a thing anymore.
You're not going to see that very often. Nope. Mm-mm.
That's impressive, man. Either way, you got to look at that and be pretty impressed. So the Phillies will go for the actual series victory tomorrow, and hopefully they can keep this thing rolling through tomorrow into Sunday and then into a sweep. Let's go ahead, Al, and pay some bills. I got to do that. Here on the Edge of Philly Sports Network is a network that's growing every day, and I'm gonna go off what everybody else says about this thing. Too big for me to read it. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of talk about what might have been on, what was on earlier, and what will be on coming up. Today was you had some chalk talk, you had some Kelly Green hour, some TPL, the Paint a Line stuff, and then you're dealing with me and Al right now for the Phightins Phinal tomorrow at 9 a.m. the Patterson Fanatics, and then me sometime tomorrow afternoon talk about the Phillies and Braves. That
well, one thing is there's a change on there, and I didn't put that's the older one. Tomorrow will be 9 a.m. Patterson Ave, as you say there, and you. But in between at noon, Devereaux Sports' normal Sunday show will be going off at noon, because I won't be able to be in studio because I'll be heading to DC about 5:45 in the morning on Sunday. So I'll be joining Pat Bernard and a couple of the Bernard family, and actually Kyle Quinn will be calling into that show to kind of give more of what we missed from him Thursday night.
That was weird. That's a weird show that he did. He's 15 minutes and then he went black for about 5 minutes. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, yeah, I did see that. Big Mike's out of town, or what's going on with him?
So they had to move the show from Sunday because, of course, I won't be there. Me and Mike are both going to be at the game, so he would have nobody. So he said, "Can we do it Saturday?" And I said, "Sure. How about noon?" And he says, "Perfect." But Mike still has to work, so Mike won't be on it. So I will be joining him, as well as his brother and his father, who have been on his shows in the past. They're actually really good. And then Kyle will be calling in to kind of give that breakdown.
Awesome. And then, of course, if you're looking for a bar and you're in the Delco, Delaware County area, southeastern Pennsylvania, look no further than Dolan's and their alleged sandwich, the Gritty, which no one has yet to produce one for me. I'm hearing about this thing, a scrapple cheesecake concoction, but again, I have yet to see it physically, in 3D. So if you see one out there, please take a picture and let me know, because it's becoming like Bigfoot. And then there's Philly Sports Trips. Again, we talked about this last night. Tailgate is a weekly tailgate for every home game, correct, Al?
Every home game.
Every home game, and then make sure you head over there. Check out all the trips that are coming up. They are going to Chicago next week for the Phillies, I believe, too. So, so go ahead and check to see. It's sold out.
It's totally sold out.
Wow.
Yeah, they did the hell thing. And let me tell you something. A little insider information on the tailgates. So people are going to go, well, why would I want to pay money for a tailgate? 2 reasons. I'm going to tell you why. Number one is you don't have to worry about supplying food, bringing beer, lugging grills down, cleaning up after yourself, burning your truck down in the process by accident. That's number one. But number two, you park your car there, you leave your car there. I mean, parking's already like 40 some dollars. It's pretty much more than half of your ticket to go there, and you get unlimited delicious food. I'm not just talking hamburgers and hot dogs. Like I always say, seafood, steak, you name it, they got it. So the tailgate's totally worth it. Where it's at in the Navy Yard to the link, it's walking distance if you want it to be.
Yeah, you can't beat that at all. So head on down to Philly Sports Trips, check them out, and don't forget on Sunday, while Big Al and the rest of the boys are down there in FedEx Field, those of us that are left behind will keep up the mantle, and we'll be doing some pregame, some halftime and postgame shows.
You might get me for 5 minutes on the pregame live. I'm gonna try to do it. Bringing my headset with me. I'm gonna try to do it from the crowd of the sea of people. The sea of people.
It's not going to look the time you called in during the Phillies game, is it?
Well, that could be. Hopefully not too bad. I might not be too schnockered at that point.
All right. Well, definitely looking forward to that. And then if things are if you do burn down your truck at a tailgate or have some issues,
or somebody else's truck,
or somebody else's, you got some workman's comp, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, or criminal law. And I'm sure Dave Cherry might be a busy man Monday. Give him a call at 610-565-0300. Tell him the boys at EOP sent you, and he'll take good care of you. Again, I'm sure his phone might be ringing off the hook on Monday morning, and it says this in case somebody doesn't make it back from Virginia. But I'm sure everybody will.
Well, the people who go on the trip, you always get your T-shirt that you went on this trip from Philly Sports Trips. I said him and Vince and Dave need to get together. So on the back, it should say Dave Cherry. So when they got you up against the wall and they're patting you down, they can start dialing the number for you.
Yeah. Then hopefully he's not needed, but if so, he's there. And a little bit of baseball knowledge before we go off the air. Albert Pujols has just hit his 700th career home run.
Did he hit it? Oh, sweet.
Al, amazing. I guess does he come back for a run at Bonds next year, do you think?
I mean, let's be honest. The thought that him doing this was not going to happen. He just looked like he was a shell of what he used to be.
Yeah.
The first half of the season, like the odds of him hitting this was getting slimmer and slimmer. And then he's been on a tear lately. Honestly, I don't want to see I would rather see the Mets, Dodgers, Braves in the playoffs before I see the Cardinals.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The Cardinals they always seem to do that, man. Like they always seem to be out of it, and then boom, they just come out of nowhere. I mean, it's interesting to see. I'm very happy for him because I've always kind of been like, listen, when we were dealing with him in like 2010 and stuff, Albert Pujols can go eat shit for all I care.
He cost Ryan Howard a couple MVP trophies. He cost him.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, he's a very likable guy, which is cool. And the fact that he was able to do the 700, the Judge watch was getting annoying with the Fox game yesterday. Like I'm like, listen, I get there's a history behind it and all this stuff, but like, well, why weren't they popping in where every time Pujols came up to bat?
Yeah, I agree. But I guess the question would remain, I would definitely be on board for him to come back to make a run at Bonds. I mean, obviously with everything that's surrounding Bonds and his the steroids and all that, to potentially have a new home run leader, would that be something good for baseball, you think?
Yeah, because I had this conversation when I helped produce Football Stories the other day. The guy that I work that runs Football Stories, Al Thompson, is a huge advocate for steroid abuse. And he, does a lot with that, like a lot with that. Like he's very big in that across the country. He's seen the dangers of it all, and we had a conversation because he said people weren't counting Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire because of the use of steroids. Kind of the asterisk, and then I kind of started to compare it to the Houston Astros World Series. I'm like, well, you're not taking their series away from them. You're just putting a little asterisk that there is a cheating scandal, and you can't give it to the second place, the team that they played against, because say the Yankees can be like, well, if they didn't cheat with us, we would have been going up against this team, not them. My point is, it would be nice to get somebody who isn't going to have this scandal behind him own that home run, that title.
So, and then one last point about the Aaron Judge thing. I mean, Judge is still 13 off. Do you think he's going to do it, or 14 to break the record? Do you think he does it this year?
Break the record, or you mean
break his single? Do you think he's going to make a run at Bonds' single season record?
Oh, single season record.
Yeah. I mean, he's 14 off that. I don't know. He's running out.
He would have to have a tear, a couple games where he's getting multiple home runs for that to even be feasible.
Yeah. So I hope to see.
But could he do it? Sure.
Yeah, he could do it. I would be one on to see Albert Pujols come back for one more year to make a run at the all-time record. I think he would do it, and obviously, I think he'd do it as a Cardinal. And I think it'd be great for baseball. I think baseball kind of needs that right now. They need a good news story. They need something like that. I really do.
I mean, if figure there's a few more, maybe say he hits 3 more years. That means he has to come back and hit what 22, 23 more home runs.
What is it? It's Bonds is
725.
725. Yeah, I think it's 725.
Yeah. So he's 725. If he hits a couple more home runs this year, that means he needs 723 or 24 home runs to break the record. So yeah, I mean, if he can have it, it's very plausible for him to do that. And like I said, it didn't even seem like he was going to hit the 700. If he didn't struggle that mightily in the beginning of the season, he might be 10 to 15 off instead of where he's at right now.
Yeah. So I hope you come back, Albert. I want to see you do it because as I mentioned, baseball needs something. They need something bad, and this would be very positive for baseball. But Al, that is going to do it for us tonight. Listen, the Phillies, they're surging again. Potentially, hopefully, this is the start of the good times now, and we can maybe go back to that Blue Jay game in the 8th inning the other night as the source of that. And maybe when we're down on Broad Street around Halloween, we can talk about that as the beginning of
November, dude, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would probably be November.
It'd be early November or something. Yeah.
Either way, let's hope that's what we're talking about here in about a month and a half. So let's keep it going. Al, is there anything you want to say heading off the air tonight to the good folks out there?
Let's go for that series win, guys. Like I said earlier, just get into it. Enjoy baseball again. Enjoy it. Like I feel like people just don't know how to. I don't know what to do with myself right now. They're just so mixed emotions. Enjoy it. That's all I can say.
Enjoy it, and I'm enjoying it. Big Al's enjoying it. Let me say, Harry the K, are you enjoying it?
He has high hopes. He has high hopes. He has high apple pie in the sky.